Welcome to Mine Explorers, episode 32, where we're back on our regular schedule.
For now.
With updates and mining talk. I hope you enjoyed our episode last week. That was a lot of fun, a little bit stressful, participating in all those festivities, but
it's a good thing to do for the community of Park City. I mean, a lot of history there, so it's always fun to acknowledge that.
Yeah, a lot of mining history. And some personal ties to it, which is really cool. My great grandfather, David Fisher, was a prospector back around like George Hurst and those guys prospecting. But, there's a lot of luck involved in that and a lot of skill, and he ended up staking claims that didn't really do that well, So
he was an average prospector.
That's why I'm making podcasts and I don't own a media empire like the Hearsts. But so there's some prospecting in my blood. And he was the superintendent of the Ontario mine, I think, really early in its history.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of ties to town there. And the Fisher family, George and Donald Fisher, they were brothers. They bought a farm in Keatley, which is now under Jordanelle. Mm-hmm. They owned a big ranch there. And George Fisher there was a time period where the Japanese, during World War II, they had to either go to an internment camp or if they could make a deal to move off the coast to a private farm somewhere, they were allowed to do that. And so George Fisher got special permission from the federal government. I actually saw it in his scrapbook. He has a letter from the U.S. Attorney General. He got special permission to have 25, anywhere between 10 and 25, I've read different accounts, Japanese families moved from Los Angeles to go work his farm in Keatley. And so they're actually putting up a special sign about that and talking about it. So.
Interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't know about the internment camps.
Right.
During World War II, thousands of American citizens of Japanese descent were forcibly relocated to internment camps.
Well, we were driving out to Delta and there's an internment camp facility. Yeah, near Topaz.
Yeah, so if you're in Delta, Utah ever, which is an interesting little spot, there's a lot to do around there, especially if you're into rocks and minerals and mining. There's an old internment camp, and you can go out and see all the foundations and everything, but there's actually a really good museum there, too. But a little bit of family history, so
that's interesting.
That's kind of cool. But apparently
Is that the same Fishers that have the brewery downtown?
Nah, I doubt it. I doubt it. It's a pretty common name. But maybe.
That'd be fun if it was.
Yeah, could be. I mean, I'd have to do some research. But apparently George Fisher, and who would be my great-great-uncle, and my great-great-grandfather, Donald Fisher, had a falling out and were fighting. So originally, Donald and his family ran the ranch, but then there was some fighting, and George Fisher became a politician and kind of had more important things to do and left them. So they eventually left the ranch before he invited the Japanese Americans to come live on the ranch instead of going to an internment camp. So
interesting.
Yeah,
very
kind of interesting history. So I don't know what my great-great-grandparents knew about it or how they were involved, but I know that their father was prospector, and that's how they ended up there.
Huh. Wow.
Pretty interesting. Yeah, so a little bit of ties to Park City history that I didn't cover last week because we were in a hurry to get that episode out, get it done, and get back on track because we don't like getting behind.
Right.
So back in the mining world, what we missed, gold is hovering around $3,600 an ounce.
Gold's cruising.
Silver is around $41 an ounce, and it got up as high as $42, but it's kind of range bound. But this is a big, we're up. This is a really big year for gold.
It is a big year for gold. I mean, we're seeing that in our business. It's been great.
Yep.
It's great. I mean, it's always fun to see like when people get excited about gold, it just follows down through all the other commodities.
Yeah, and there's still interest from the ground up. So there's been very steady interest in copper
Oh, of course.
for
A few years now.
a few years now. Rare earths, obviously, now people are seeing that's real. It's not just a speculative bubble this time. There's a real concerted effort to onshore rare earth production and mining.
Yep.
Tungsten is up on export controls out of China. So tungsten scheelite, which is a tungsten-bearing mineral, scheelite concentrates of 30 to 40%. It's kind of the purity, 30 to 40% concentrate, is selling for $35,000 a ton, 35,000 US dollars per metric ton.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's a pretty significant rise. It's up quite a bit year over year. And then, exciting for me, because it's one of my favorite projects, Centerra Gold, which is kind of a junior mid-tier gold producer, about a $2 billion company listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. They have operations around the world, international, and they're kind of like a little bit smaller than like Oceana Gold, similar.
Okay.
They have operations in Turkey and around. They have a project in Goldfield, Nevada, that's not operating, but could be because they have the wherewithal. But they took a 9.9% investment in Liberty Gold.
Wow.
Just announced this morning.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and they bought in at a 10% premium to the current share price. So
they're
that's
serious.
a really good move. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a strategic investment, they're calling it.
Okay.
And I mean, the writing's on the wall. If you've got the cash, I think that's a fantastic way to go. And then obviously they're signaling ahead of time that if things go towards production, they might eventually take a controlling interest or take over the company.
What do you mean if? You mean when things go to production?
Well, I mean, they will,
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
They haven't announced it and said it's a guarantee, but all the management firmly believes it will go into
For
production.
sure.
And it's been really highly de-risked. They're doing a lot of really important studies. They're drilling. They drilled the old leach pad, and there's recoverable gold there. So in reclaiming and moving that leach pad, because there's ore underneath it,
Yeah, right, right.
and reclaiming and doing that. So they're going to unlock the ore onto the leach pad. They're going to reclaim it, move it. But in doing so, they can reprocess it and it'll actually make money.
That's
in
amazing.
The process.
Yeah, I remember we got a tour of that mine. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's
Several
been
years ago.
Yeah, several years.
Yeah.
But that was very exciting.
That was very neat. Yeah.
Yeah, so and a lot of other deals and things going on. We're starting to see strategic investments. Companies are raising capital. There's a company, FMR Resources, is drilling in South America, and they have a really good-looking copper project. And they announced a private placement, and they filled it in like a number of hours.
That's
Versus
exciting.
like having to beat down doors and stuff, they had their whole private placement filled really quickly.
Yeah.
So that sort of stuff indicates we're on the right path. But as we talked about this morning in another conversation, we're not at the frothy stage, even close to. We're still just the doors
We're at
barely
the start
open. Yep.
Of the excitement for exploration.
Because it's been so underfunded for so long that just a little bit of funding, everybody starts to get excited.
Well, I mean, all that money has been flowing to tech is what we've talked about for a long time. And now people in tech are realizing like, oh, we actually need the minerals.
Well, you've heard about the Magnificent Seven, right?
Yeah.
The Mag 7 in tech. And they make up like all the S&P and they make up all the stocks and they're multi-trillion-dollar valuations. Like, so all of the spare capital that was invested in every other sector has been sucked up into that. And now we're seeing some of it come back because to keep those lofty stocks afloat, you have to have all the other raw materials.
What? Do you mean it starts from the ground?
Yep.
Ah, crazy.
And they're seeing the writing on the wall. But like I said, like it doesn't take a huge shift in capital. Like we don't need to take trillions of dollars, but a couple billion extra dollars invested in U.S. exploration every year would make a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference. Yeah, and then that just gets the ball rolling into everything else. Because as we know, it's a long process, but we need to start.
Yep.
And the best time to start is always today.
Yeah, our best starts 10 years ago and alternatively today. But
Yeah.
yeah, so let's talk about bottlenecks. What do you see as a big bottleneck?
Well,
in
something that we have been
exploration
talking
and
about
mining?
for a while is it's awesome that exploration's going. It's awesome to see, companies are doing more drilling and getting projects off the ground. But the biggest bottleneck that we've been talking about is refineries and smelting, because you can get the ore to at a raw level, but it still needs to be refined and processed to be used as an end product. And oftentimes, out of like 90% of it goes overseas. It goes elsewhere. It gets out of the country. So we can tariff and try and get the critical minerals here as much as we want, but we are still seeing the bottleneck of processing here. So I had a little conversation with Gemini because I was curious, like, we have our Mineralocity website, right, where we mapped out all the mines. We have, names and locations for all the mines, but we don't have smelters on there.
Oh, that'd be an easy ad. There's not many.
It would be an easy ad because there's not many. There's only a few. There's, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have for base metals, for copper, we have Kennecott smelter, which is here, just right over here in the valley. We have the Hayden.
Which is not running at capacity.
Which is not running at capacity. That's why we need resolution to get up and going. We have the Hayden smelter down in Arizona and the Miami smelter in Miami, Arizona. So we have 3 copper smelters.
Sarco smelter, and then Miami, which is Freeport McMoran.
Right.
And they have multiple operations in Arizona that all feed that.
Right.
So that one's probably the one that's closest to capacity right now.
Probably.
And a lot of the other ones are not.
Yeah. So we do not have any lead smelters running at this time. The last one was ran in 2013. So that's unfortunate. Zinc, we have 1 primary zinc smelter.
In Tennessee.
In Tennessee, that's right.
Near Star,
Near Star, Clarksville Refinery. Yeah. And then nickel, there's no refineries for nickel.
So...
Which is crazy because we do a lot of mining for nickel over in the Eagle Mine in Michigan and then in Montana.
In that area, yeah.
Which is crazy.
So the only thing we have good capacity on is precious metals.
Yeah.
There's that, but that's lower tonnage, smaller smelters, a lot smaller volume than copper.
I do need to double check this list because I thought we had uranium refineries
I don't
here.
think this is just a list of the metals.
Yeah, this is just a list of the metals.
Yeah, the primary metals, base metals, precious metals. It doesn't get into... There's a lot of, like... We have a beryllium smelter here in Utah.
Right.
I don't know if you call it a smelter or refinery.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that much about beryllium processing. But there's small boutique things that do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's more
that would be
than
worth,
what's on the list.
That would be worth, though, looking into that and then putting that on our Mineralocity site. I think that'd be really insightful.
Adding all of those would be super helpful.
Because we just
and
added
easy.
the cement plants, and that was interesting to see how many cement plants are around, which is like under 100 or so across the nation.
So rare earths, we do some processing in MP materials.
Right, and
but they've still largely sent the final product off to China.
Right.
And then lithium, we have very limited domestic capacity. If you look at global lithium production and refining, the U.S. is like a very small player.
So small, yeah.
But a big consumer of electric batteries. Cobalt.
Lithium's in everything now. It's crazy.
Very minimum cobalt capacity, but there's a company called U.S. Strategic Metals. I met with the CEO at PDAC, I believe, and they're building a facility in Missouri to recover and process cobalt, nickel, and other critical minerals. And
it's a start.
So that's what we have, but it's kind of a big picture stepping back. So we mine the raw material, and then it gets milled, and almost all the mines have a mill of some sort.
Right.
Because that's a pretty simple mechanical separation, flotation, things like that. There's not a lot of chemicals, heating, cooling, where you get all the environmental issues and the complexity.
Right.
So there's a lot of milling, and then it's the concentrate that moves around. And because it's concentrated, you can more economically
Right. You don't
move
want to
it.
be moving raw material.
No, but if you can concentrate it to
Yeah.
a high percentage, then you can ship it all over the world for processing.
Which we've
But
obviously done.
when you get to the final smelting and refining, the closer you get to purity on any commodity requires exponentially increased levels of complexity.
For sure.
And so that's when you get into the smelting and refining. Like the lead smelter that we had here in the US shut down because they couldn't comply with strict environmental controls. So all that went offshore. And it's because you get all sorts of different, depending on the commodity, obviously it's a big variety, but you get all sorts of different types of processes and heating and cooling and chemical involvement when you get to that final process. And so it's much more environmentally complex. There's a lot more emissions and things like that if it's not done well.
Right. Right.
And sometimes there just are anyway, and there's no way around it. But
I mean, it really begs the question of like, do we want that here?
I mean, so the NIMBY folks say no, right? Not
Of
in my
course.
backyard. Let's
Right.
just let it happen somewhere else. But when it comes to things like carbon emissions, it doesn't matter where you are. We share one sky. So you can move all the dirty stuff over to China and you don't have to deal with the direct effects and the some of the acute effects, but the long term, it's still the same sky.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It would be better to have it over here because we
where
do
it's
have
more controlled, yeah. And China is
stringent-
getting better. I mean, they are cleaning things up a lot, but it's still a far cry. And then there are other jurisdictions where they still just don't care at all.
right. Well, they just don't have the funding or infrastructure or desire.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a good thing is like, even if you're not operating in a Western jurisdiction with tight controls, if it's a public company that's located in a Western domicile, generally they're going to bring with them high quality standards. And that's one of the good things to come out of the ESG push is they're required and they've set internal standards to follow the same processes. Even if the jurisdiction they're in doesn't require it, they still use best practices. But then there's a lot of smelters and refineries completely outside of that network that don't care.
Right.
It's just about profit or
Right.
strategic initiatives
Yeah.
at a state level, which we see a lot. And it drives a lot. That's why we're seeing rare earth, antimony, tungsten, all of these strategic minerals blowing up here, and a lot of interest in them because of China tightening the controls.
For sure. I mean, when they control 90% of production, that's a bit terrifying, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't want to put one of your highly strategic minerals out in somebody else's hands, especially if they're not a, friendly partner.
Yeah, and that's the narrative, and that's largely what's driving it. I mean, the reality is much more complex too. Like China
Absolutely.
creates
yeah.
a lot of finished goods, and who buys those? Well, we do.
We do.
So we provide the capital
Yep.
to build all the things and prop up the economy. So China doesn't want they don't want an all-out trade war. They definitely don't want a hot war or even a cold war, but they do like to walk that line. And there's a lot of saber rattling and stuff.
Right. And so it's really hard to know, like, is this just a red herring or is this something that we should really...
I don't think there's any harm. I mean, so there's definitely a trend, like Peter Zeihan, he's a geopolitician, a geopolitical... He studies geopolitics.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Geopolitician. He's not a politician. He studies geopolitical issues and
He's an author.
and he's an author with a geographical context.
Yes.
And he's written a lot of books about how
Which is pretty
we
fascinating.
have had this huge push towards globalization. And since Bretton Woods, the United States has been the world police. And now everyone's weary of that. They're tired of it. And so now there's this reverse, and we're pushing back towards nationalization. And that trend, at least according to Peter, and really, like, his books have been pretty spot on in terms of things happening. And they have been for a long time. I read his first book like 8 years ago, and he's definitely stayed on track. So in the scope of that, we're going to continue this trend of nationalization, and not just the U.S., but a lot of other countries too. Like Canada is starting to be like, oh, maybe we should look out for our own interests. Mexico,
Right.
very similar all over the place. If that trend continues, then there's going to be a push to be less reliant. And so there will need to be refining capacity for metals. There may be rare little things here and there that just doesn't make sense to have a domestic supply.
It still has to be economical.
But for anything that has got a really critical strategic importance, you're going to see a lot of onshoring.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a long-term trend. I was very skeptical, particularly about rare earths and things like that there's actually going to be a domestic need and that's going to stick. Because there's been a lot of on and off with different administrations. China,
we've seen that for the last 10 years.
China will tighten up controls until it sees real competitors emerging and then open the floodgates to drown them.
Yeah.
But as soon as the U.S. government gets involved and decides to like set a floor on prices or make direct investments in production, that will keep things going until they stop doing that, which they will at some point.
Right.
But it might be 5 years, it might be 40 years, it might be 100 years.
Hopefully it's longer than just the next administration.
Right.
We really need to
makes
just
it
see
really
it.
hard in the industry. And there's so much wasted capital.
So much wasted capital. I mean, and it just really it just throws a wrench in all the progress that we make. Because like 4 years is not enough time. Because it's really like 2.5 at best, right? And then like you get a new administration in and they're like, oh no, we're going to throw all that away because we didn't like the last guy. And it's like, that is such a wasted effort. Like that does the country no good. We really need our politicians to stop thinking about their legacy and thinking about America's legacy.
Yeah, I've got a lot of interesting ideas on that, but I'll leave it at term limits.
Yeah.
for at least Congress and things like that. I mean, obviously we have them presidentially.
Yeah.
But there's such a focus on you get into office.
And then you stay in office.
You spend 6 months just sorting shit out and battling whatever hurdles were thrown in the way.
Yeah.
Then you can actually get to work for a couple of years, and then it's re-election time.
And then you're just campaigning, which is like
just focusing on re-election, which is wasted time.
Wasted time. Yeah. But things are interesting. I mean, I've definitely loved seeing the excitement in our industry. It is about time, and we are ready for it.
So we're hitting a couple conferences coming up. We'll see how that translates to on the ground.
Well, you're going to Wyoming tomorrow.
I'll be in Wyoming tomorrow at the Rocky Mountain Mining Summit in beautiful Rock Springs, Wyoming.
Beautiful Rock Springs, Wyoming.
And we will be exhibiting. We will have a booth, and I don't even need to give you a booth number because it's a small show and you can't miss us. Right by the entrance registration desk.
And you're also giving a presentation.
And I'm giving a presentation on using GIS for market analysis, kind of how we develop mineralocity and how other people can use and develop their own tools to do similar things.
You should give, we should do one of our podcasts on that. That would be interesting.
Yeah. I've got a few presentations that I give that would translate pretty well.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to sit on a panel about AI and the future of technology.
I'm going to sit on a panel about recruitment and...
Retention.
Retention. That's the word.
And that will be in 2 weeks at Ag Nexus.
In Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas.
That'll be fun.
Which is a fun place.
And then, go talk about rocks.
Yeah, and then this next year, like AME Roundup is always a good indicator of what's going on.
Yep.
And if they do VRIC, which they usually do at the same time, that's also a good indicator. Because we'll see, like it shrinks and expands depending on how things are going. And I think we're going to see an expansion this year.
I hope so.
And that's still enough months away. Like we might see that shift in funding go up another little bit, which... At this point, 5% to 10% to 15 to 20 is exponential growth.
Absolutely.
Because it's been at like 1%.
People haven't even wanted to talk about
capital
minerals.
Allocation to the resource sector historically has been like 5%.
Yeah.
And it's been hovering around like 1%.
Even a year ago, people were barely talking about minerals.
Yeah. And now it's in the public spotlight and people are looking at it and
people are thinking about it differently.
There's excitement still in copper, but it goes all the way to uranium.
Yep.
So it's across the board.
That's exciting.
And with that, we'll call that an episode. It's episode 32. Quick update, catch up on some things, and then next week, I will be reporting live from the Rocky Mountain Mining Summit, but not really live because I'm going to shoot it here in a few days and then I'll post it next Tuesday. But it'll be fresh. And maybe I can grab some people to interview like we do at shows. And then the following week, we will be in Austin and we will shoot from the show there, Ag Nexus.
That's right.
And we will definitely do some interviews there.
Yep.
I've got people that owe me favors.
Demanding.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, until next time.
Until next time.